To truly understand how to rebuild muscle fast, we need to start with what causes muscle to break down in the first place. Whether you're lifting weights, walking uphill, or simply aging, your muscles are under constant stress. The act of breaking down and rebuilding muscle is known as muscle protein turnover. Every time your muscle fibers are stressed, either by resistance training, injury, or metabolic demands, they suffer microscopic damage. This damage isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's essential because in response to that damage, your body initiates a remarkable cascade of repair processes. But here's where the challenge begins. Your body can only rebuild that muscle if it has the right tools. And those tools are nutrients, particularly amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of muscle. Without them, no amount of exercise, supplements, or recovery time will help. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Your muscles don't just need any amino acids. They need essential amino and especially one called leucine. Leucine acts almost like a trigger. When it reaches a certain concentration in the bloodstream, it flips on the mTOR pathway, which is your body's central muscle building switch. If that switch doesn't get flipped, if leucine levels don't rise high enough, you could eat all day and still see minimal muscle repair, and this becomes more critical as we age. Sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass, is not just about being less active. It's also about losing sensitivity to leucine. That means older adults need more leucine to trigger the same muscle-building response that a younger person would achieve with less. This is why choosing the right food, daily, is vital if you want to rebuild muscle fast. Now, let's go deeper into what happens after you've consumed a protein-rich meal. When dietary protein is ingested, it gets broken down into amino acids during digestion. These amino acids enter the bloodstream and are distributed to various tissues. Skeletal muscle is one of the primary sites where they're used for repair and rebuilding. However, not all proteins are created equal. Some are rapidly digested and spike blood amino acid levels quickly. These are known as fast proteins, while others are digested more slowly. Fast proteins are particularly effective at triggering muscle protein synthesis because they deliver leucine and other key amino acids in a short window of time, maximizing the anabolic signal. Timing matters too. After a workout, your muscles are like dry sponges, primed to absorb nutrients. There's a window of heightened sensitivity where muscle protein synthesis is most efficient. Consuming the right kind of protein shortly after exercise can double the rate of muscle repair compared to waiting several hours. And again, the presence of leucine is key. It's not just about how much protein you eat, but what kind of protein and when. Inflammation also plays a role. Exercise-induced muscle damage triggers an inflammatory response. This is part of the healing process, but excessive or chronic inflammation can impair recovery and suppress the anabolic signals. That's why it's just about protein. It's also about choosing nutrient-rich foods that support a healthy inflammatory response. Then we have insulin. Insulin is not just about blood sugar. It's a potent anabolic hormone. It helps shuttle amino acids into muscle cells and supports protein synthesis. That's why including a small amount of carbohydrate with your protein, especially post-workout, can actually enhance muscle rebuilding by increasing insulin availability and nutrient transport. So when we talk about rebuilding muscle fast, we're not just talking about consuming more calories or lifting heavier weights. We're talking about creating an optimal internal environment where nutrient signaling, inflammation control, hormonal balance, and amino acid availability all converge. And the foundation of that environment is a very specific kind of food, one that delivers high-quality, rapidly digestible protein rich in leucine with anti-inflammatory properties, and that complements your body's natural repair cycle. When we talk about rebuilding muscle, it's important to first understand how muscle breaks down. Every time we engage in physical activity, whether it's weightlifting, sprinting, climbing stairs, or even long walks, we place stress on our muscles. This stress leads to microscopic tears in the muscle fibers. These microtears might sound negative, but they're actually an essential part of how muscles grow. The body recognizes this damage and responds by repairing the fibers, making them stronger and more resilient than before. This process of breaking down and rebuilding muscle is known as muscle protein turnover, and it happens constantly in the body, even during periods of rest, though it's intensified following exercise. This ongoing cycle of breakdown and repair depends heavily on the availability of specific nutrients. Without the right raw materials, the body cannot rebuild muscle effectively. Among the most important of these nutrients are amino acids, particularly essential amino acids, the ones the body cannot produce on its own and must be obtained through diet. These amino acids serve as the literal building blocks of new muscle tissue. But muscle repair is not just about having amino acids floating in the bloodstream. It requires a very specific signal to initiate the building phase of muscle synthesis. That signal is triggered when key amino acids, especially leucine, reach a critical threshold in the blood. Once that threshold is met, it activates a cellular mechanism called the mTOR pathway. This pathway acts like a master switch that tells the body it's time to build. If this switch isn't flipped, the rebuilding process is delayed or incomplete, no matter how hard you train or how much general protein you consume. The challenge becomes even greater with age. Muscle loss associated with aging, also called sarcopenia, results from both increased muscle breakdown and decreased muscle building capacity. The older body doesn't respond to amino acids as efficiently as a younger one. This means the mTOR pathway becomes less sensitive to activation, and more leucine is needed to achieve the same muscle building effect. So what worked for someone in their 20s won't necessarily work the same way in their 50s or 60s. This resistance to anabolic signaling is one reason why selecting the right kind of protein is so critical for older adults who are trying to maintain or rebuild muscle mass. Exercise itself also sets the stage for muscle regrowth by increasing insulin sensitivity and blood flow to skeletal muscles, which enhances nutrient delivery. But the muscle damage created by physical stress also triggers an inflammatory response. This short-term inflammation is part of the healing process, bringing immune cells to the area to help remove damaged tissue and stimulate repair. However, if systemic inflammation is already elevated due to poor diet, chronic stress, or underlying disease, the healing process becomes compromised. Chronic inflammation suppresses the signals for muscle repair and reduces the efficiency of amino acid uptake. This is why it's not just about consuming protein, but about managing inflammation through diet and lifestyle. Sleep and circadian rhythm also play an important role in muscle rebuilding. The body does a significant amount of tissue repair and protein synthesis during deep sleep. Growth hormone surges during sleep help facilitate these processes. Sleep deprivation, on the other hand, increases cortisol levels, which can accelerate muscle breakdown and blunt the anabolic effects of exercise and protein intake. Even hormones such as insulin and testosterone come into play. Insulin helps shuttle amino acids into muscle cells, especially when consumed alongside carbohydrates. Testosterone, naturally present in both men and women, enhances protein synthesis and muscle repair. These hormonal effects depend not only on lifestyle factors like exercise and stress management, but also on nutritional status. Certain nutrients can influence hormonal balance and improve the muscle rebuilding response. Leucine is one of the 9 essential amino acids, and among those, it holds a particularly powerful position in the world of muscle physiology. While all essential amino acids are necessary for building muscle, leucine stands out because of its unique ability to act as a signaling molecule. Rather than simply being a building block, leucine functions like a key that unlocks the door to muscle protein synthesis. When its concentration in the bloodstream reaches a certain threshold, it activates the mTOR pathway, a major cellular regulator responsible for growth and repair. This activation tells the body to begin assembling new muscle proteins. Using the amino acids that are available in circulation, this threshold effect is important. You can eat protein all day from processed foods, but if the amount of leucine in your bloodstream doesn't rise high enough to cross that threshold, the switch for muscle building may never fully turn on. That's why simply eating any form of protein isn't enough for optimal muscle recovery or growth. The quality of the protein source and the specific leucine content becomes central to the process. Some protein sources are low in leucine, which means they provide the raw materials but lack the switch to initiate construction. Others, particularly high leucine foods like whey protein, are both rich in amino acids and capable of flipping the anabolic switch quickly and efficiently for people who engage in regular physical training or are recovering from muscle loss due to injury, illness, or aging. Getting enough leucine becomes even more critical. Research shows that muscle protein synthesis peaks when around 2 to 3 grams of leucine are consumed in a single serving. Consuming less than that may produce a suboptimal response, and anything above that doesn't necessarily enhance the effect. It just ensures the signal is fully triggered. This is often referred to as the leucine threshold, and hitting it with each meal or supplementation window ensures the most effective muscle building response. One of the reasons this threshold is so crucial is that the body doesn't store leucine. Unlike glucose or fat, which the body can hold onto in reserves, amino acids must be consumed regularly to maintain adequate levels for repair and synthesis. Once ingested, leucine is rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream, but if it isn't utilized in time, either because the other essential amino acids aren't present or because the body isn't in a building state, it may be oxidized and used for energy instead. That's why timing and balance are critical. The ideal scenario involves consuming leucine-rich protein in a context where the body is primed for growth, such as after a resistance training session. Another dimension to leucine's role is its age-related significance. As the body ages, it becomes less sensitive to the presence of leucine. This means older adults need to consume more leucine in each meal to stimulate the same level of muscle protein synthesis that a younger person would experience with a smaller dose. This phenomenon, known as anabolic resistance, can be overcome with higher protein intakes and specifically more leucine-dense meals. In practical terms, this means selecting proteins that naturally have higher leucine content and consuming them in concentrated servings rather than spreading minimal doses throughout the day. In addition to stimulating protein synthesis, leucine also plays a role in inhibiting muscle breakdown. It does this by downregulating proteolysis pathways, the processes that break muscle proteins down into amino acids for energy or recycling. By both stimulating synthesis and reducing breakdown, leucine creates a more favorable environment for muscle gain or preservation, especially during periods of caloric restriction or recovery from stress. It's also worth noting that leucine's impact goes beyond skeletal muscle. It influences insulin secretion from the pancreas, which not only aids in glucose uptake but also contributes to the anabolic environment by promoting nutrient transport into muscle cells. This insulinogenic effect makes leucine-containing meals doubly effective for muscle rebuilding because they both stimulate growth and support the hormonal environment needed to carry it out efficiently. When evaluating the effectiveness of different protein sources for rebuilding muscle, one stands out consistently in both clinical and performance research: whey protein. It is considered the gold standard not just because of its high protein content, but because of its unique amino acid profile, rapid absorption activity. Whey protein is derived from milk during the cheese-making process. It contains all 9 essential amino acids in optimal ratios, making it a complete protein. But what truly sets whey apart is its leucine concentration, which is higher than in almost any other natural food source per gram of protein. This makes whey especially powerful in triggering the mTOR pathway that signals muscle growth. Whey protein also digests and absorbs faster than other protein sources like casein, soy, or plant-based alternatives. After ingestion, whey is broken down quickly in the stomach and intestines, allowing amino acids to flood the bloodstream in a short amount of time. This rapid rise in blood amino acid levels, especially leucine, creates a strong anabolic signal. Because muscle protein synthesis is a time-sensitive process that benefits from sudden spikes in amino acid availability, the fast absorption of whey offers a clear advantage. In contrast, slow-digesting proteins like casein release amino acids gradually, which can be useful for long-term maintenance but is less effective in initiating immediate repair and rebuilding. The biological value BV and protein digestibility corrected amino acid score PDCAs are 2 standard measures used to evaluate protein quality. Whey consistently scores at the top of both scales, meaning the body can absorb and utilize nearly all of the protein consumed. This efficiency is particularly important for individuals who are in recovery, training regularly, or trying to combat muscle loss due to aging or chronic illness. Each gram of whey protein delivers not quantity but the quality necessary to rebuild muscle quickly and effectively. In addition to its leucine content and digestibility, whey contains bioactive peptides that contribute to muscle health and recovery in more indirect ways. These peptides have been shown to reduce inflammation, support immune function, and even improve blood pressure regulation. Since inflammation can impair muscle repair and delay recovery after exercise or injury, these anti-inflammatory properties offer an added benefit. Reducing systemic inflammation allows the muscle repair machinery to operate without interference, optimizing the environment for protein synthesis. Whey protein also enhances insulin response, which plays a dual role in muscle building. Insulin is an anabolic hormone that facilitates the uptake of glucose and amino acids into cells. A higher insulin response post-exercise can accelerate nutrient delivery to muscle tissue, further boosting the effects of protein intake. When whey is consumed along with a small amount of carbohydrate, the resulting insulin surge can amplify amino acid transport and increase the rate of muscle repair. This synergistic effect is one reason why many post-workout formulas combine whey protein with fast-digesting carbs. Another important aspect of whey protein is its practicality. It is highly versatile, can be mixed into liquids, incorporated into meals, or consumed on the go, making it a convenient option for ensuring regular and adequate protein intake throughout the day. This consistency is essential, especially for individuals who struggle to consume enough high-quality through whole foods alone due to appetite issues, dietary restrictions, or time constraints. The convenience of whey allows people to hit their protein targets without sacrificing nutritional quality. Whey protein isolates and concentrates both offer benefits, with isolates being more refined and containing less lactose and fat. This can be particularly useful for individuals with lactose intolerance or those looking to reduce calorie intake while maximizing protein consumption. The low-fat, low-carb nature of whey isolate makes it an efficient way to deliver high doses of muscle-building amino acids without excess calories or digestive burden. This purity ensures the body receives what it needs, when it needs it in a form it can use immediately. The timing of nutrient intake plays a critical role in muscle recovery and growth. While the total daily intake of protein and essential nutrients is undeniably important, when you consume these nutrients in relation to your exercise and recovery cycles, can make a significant difference in how efficiently your body rebuilds muscle tissue. This is largely because of the anabolic window, a period following resistance training when the muscles are more receptive to nutrient uptake and muscle protein synthesis is elevated. During this window, blood flow to skeletal muscles is increased, cellular nutrient transporters are more active, and the muscle cells are particularly sensitive to insulin and amino acids. This creates an ideal internal environment for rebuilding damaged muscle fibers, provided the necessary building blocks are made available during this critical window of opportunity post-workout. muscle cells are in a state of heightened demand. The mechanical stress from resistance training causes small tears in the muscle fibers, which leads to an inflammatory response and increased recruitment of satellite cells, specialized cells that aid in tissue regeneration. However, this regenerative process requires a constant and immediate supply of amino acids, particularly leucine, to be effective. Delaying protein intake by even a few hours can blunt the muscle protein synthesis response, reducing the efficiency of muscle repair. On the other hand, consuming a leucine-rich protein source, such as whey, within 30 to 60 minutes after exercise has been shown to maximize the post-exercise anabolic response, promoting faster and more complete recovery. It's not just the post-exercise period that matters. Pre-exercise nutrition can also influence muscle rebuilding. Consuming protein before a workout ensures that amino acid levels are elevated during the training session, which can help minimize muscle breakdown. Additionally, pairing protein with amount of carbohydrates pre-workout can improve performance by supplying glycogen to working muscles and reducing perceived exertion. This not only enhances exercise quality but also primes the muscle for more robust protein synthesis afterward. The combination of pre- and post-exercise protein intake creates a broader anabolic window, extending the period of heightened muscle sensitivity to nutrients. Another key time to consider is the pre-sleep window. Muscle protein synthesis continues during sleep, particularly during the deep sleep stages when growth hormone secretion is elevated. Consuming a slow-digesting protein like casein before bed provides a steady stream of amino acids throughout the night, helping to sustain muscle repair over several hours. This strategy becomes especially important for individuals who train late in the evening or those looking to combat overnight catabolism. However, if the goal is rapid muscle rebuilding, such as during periods of intense training or recovery from injury, combining this nighttime strategy with faster-acting proteins earlier in the day can amplify results. Meal distribution across the day also affects muscle growth. Instead of consuming the majority of daily protein in 1 or 2 large meals, spreading intake evenly across 3 to 4 meals has been shown to stimulate more consistent muscle protein synthesis. Each of these meals should contain 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein with sufficient leucine to trigger the anabolic signaling pathways. This staying away from pattern ensures that the body receives regular stimulation to maintain or build muscle mass throughout the day, especially during long gaps between meals when amino acid levels can fall below the threshold needed to support synthesis. For older adults and those with anabolic resistance, the timing strategy becomes even more crucial. They may require higher doses of protein per meal and more frequent intake to achieve the same muscle-building response seen in younger individuals. Strategically timed protein ingestion can help overcome the diminished sensitivity of aging muscle to amino acids and support the preservation of lean mass over time. This becomes a foundational component of both strength training programs and clinical rehabilitation plans aimed at reversing or slowing muscle loss. Exercise timing also intersects with circadian rhythm, which affects hormonal fluctuations that can influence muscle recovery. Early morning workouts may benefit from a protein-rich breakfast immediately afterward to counter the natural overnight fasting state and cortisol peak that can increase muscle breakdown. Evening workouts may require a slightly different strategy to align nutrient intake with the body's recovery-focused nighttime physiology. Understanding these variables allows for more targeted and effective muscle rebuilding interventions that go beyond just the type and quantity of food consumed. Muscle rebuilding is not just a matter of consuming protein and doing resistance training. There are powerful regulatory systems within the body that can either amplify or suppress the rebuilding process, and 2 of the most influential among them are inflammation and insulin. These 2 physiological processes operate in ways that can either support or sabotage muscle repair depending on their context, intensity, and balance. Understanding how inflammation and insulin interact with muscle tissue provides deeper insight into why some people build muscle quickly, while others struggle despite proper training and nutrition. Inflammation is a natural and necessary response to physical stress. When muscles are damaged during exercise, immune cells rush to the area and release pro-inflammatory cytokines. These molecules help initiate the repair process by signaling to the body that recovery is needed. They facilitate the removal of damaged cells, increase blood flow to the area, and activate satellite cells that begin the rebuilding of muscle fibers. In this acute short-term form, inflammation is essential and beneficial. However, problems begin to emerge when inflammation becomes chronic or systemic. If the body is under constant inflammatory stress, from poor diet, lack of sleep, chronic stress, metabolic dysfunction, or underlying illness, it starts to interfere with the anabolic signals required for muscle regeneration. Chronic inflammation increases levels of cytokines, such as TNF-alpha and IL-6, which in high concentrations can blunt the activation of the mTOR pathway. This inhibition of mTOR directly impairs muscle protein synthesis. Furthermore, persistent inflammation can increase muscle protein brown through the activation of the ubiquitin proteasome system, a pathway responsible for degrading muscle proteins. The net result is a state where muscle is being broken down faster than it is being rebuilt, leading to catabolism instead of growth. This can be particularly problematic for older adults or individuals recovering from illness, as their inflammatory baseline tends to be higher, reducing their responsiveness to training and protein intake. Insulin, on the other hand, is often seen primarily through the lens of blood sugar regulation, but its role in muscle growth is equally critical. Insulin is a potent anabolic hormone that enhances nutrient uptake into cells, particularly glucose and amino acids. After a protein-rich meal, insulin helps shuttle these amino acids into muscle tissue, setting the stage for protein synthesis. It also inhibits muscle protein breakdown, offering a dual mechanism for supporting muscle preservation and growth. This is why post-workout meals that combine protein with a moderate amount of carbohydrate often outperform protein alone when it comes to maximizing recovery and rebuilding. The insulin spike triggered by carbohydrates amplifies the efficiency with the muscle absorbs nutrients. However, like inflammation, insulin's role is double-edged. In individuals with insulin resistance, often associated with obesity, sedentary lifestyle, or metabolic syndrome, the muscle's ability to respond to insulin is impaired. This blunts the uptake of amino acids and reduces the muscle's ability to respond to the anabolic effects of both food and exercise. In this case, even if enough protein and leucine are present, the cellular machinery responsible for building muscle is less responsive. Overcoming insulin resistance through exercise, dietary changes, and weight loss can restore insulin sensitivity and improve the muscle's anabolic potential. The relationship between insulin and inflammation is also deeply interconnected. Chronic inflammation impairs insulin signaling, and poor insulin function can in turn increase systemic inflammation. This vicious cycle can quietly undermine efforts to rebuild muscle, particularly in aging individuals or those with metabolic disorders. That's why anti-inflammatory dietary strategies, such as reducing processed foods, increasing intake of omega-3 fatty acids, consuming polyphenol-rich fruits and vegetables, and improving gut health, are not just general wellness tools but essential components of effective muscle regeneration protocols. Managing blood sugar through balanced meals, avoiding excessive intake of refined carbohydrates, and staying physically active throughout the day also helps maintain insulin sensitivity. Even simple habits like walking after meals or incorporating resistance training can significantly improve the body's ability to utilize insulin properly and reduce baseline inflammation levels. These foundational changes create a hormonal and cellular environment that supports, rather than resists, the rebuilding of muscle tissue in response to training and nutrition. Grass-fed whey protein offers a unique combination of qualities that make it one of the most effective daily foods for rapidly rebuilding muscle. Unlike conventional whey protein, which often comes from cows raised on grain-based diets, grass-fed whey is derived from cows that consume a natural diet of grass and forage. This seemingly small difference translates into a superior nutritional profile, improved digestibility, and greater biological activity, all of which contribute to its muscle rebuilding potential. The amino acid composition of grass-fed whey is particularly notable, as it provides all 9 essential amino acids in proportions that closely match human requirements. It is especially high in leucine, the critical amino acid responsible for triggering muscle protein synthesis through the mTOR pathway. Because grass-fed whey is a fast-digesting protein, it enters the bloodstream rapidly, delivering a surge of amino acids to muscle tissue when the body needs them most, particularly in the post-exercise window. This immediate availability is key to halting muscle breakdown and shifting the body into a state of repair. Unlike slower digesting proteins which release amino acids gradually, grass-fed whey maximizes the acute anabolic response needed to rebuild muscle fibers efficiently. The speed at which it is absorbed also makes it an ideal option for those who train multiple times per day or have higher recovery demands, as it allows for repeated stimulation of muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. Another advantage of grass-fed whey lies in its naturally occurring bioactive peptides and immunoglobulins. These compounds support muscle recovery by enhancing immune function, reducing exercise-induced oxidative stress, and promoting cellular repair. Intensive training can temporarily weaken the immune system and increase oxidative damage, both of which can impair recovery if not managed properly. The peptides in grass-fed whey help counter these effects by supporting tissue healing and moderating inflammation. This creates a more favorable internal environment for consistent, high-quality muscle growth, especially when training frequency or intensity is high. The lipid profile of grass-fed whey is also superior. Because grass cows produce milk that's richer in omega-3 fatty acids and conjugated linoleic acid CLA, grass-fed whey retains trace amounts of these anti-inflammatory compounds. CLA, in particular, has been studied for its potential to support lean muscle mass, reduce fat accumulation, and improve metabolic health. Although the amounts present in whey protein are small, the cumulative effect of consuming these beneficial fats over time may contribute to a more efficient body composition, aiding in muscle retention and growth. Particularly during fat loss phases or calorie-restricted diets. From a digestive standpoint, grass-fed whey is generally better tolerated, especially in its isolate form, which removes most of the lactose and fat content. This makes it accessible to individuals who are lactose sensitive or those seeking to minimize gastrointestinal discomfort while still receiving high doses of quality protein. Because digestion and nutrient absorption are foundational to muscle rebuilding, the ease with which grass-fed whey is processed by the body gives it a practical edge. Fewer digestive issues mean more consistent usage and better overall adherence to a protein-focused nutrition plan. Grass-fed whey also tends to be lower in contaminants and free from artificial hormones, antibiotics, and genetically modified organisms when compared to conventional whey. This purity matters, particularly for individuals who are health conscious or who be managing chronic inflammation or hormone-related imbalances. By reducing the toxic burden and supporting cleaner nutrient intake, grass-fed whey helps keep the body in a state that is more conducive to healing, tissue repair, and anabolic activity. It becomes more than just a protein source. It functions as a foundational recovery food that aligns with broader goals of metabolic, hormonal, and muscular health. Its versatility also makes it simple to integrate into daily routines. Grass-fed whey can be added to smoothies, oatmeal, or even water and consumed immediately after training or between meals to ensure a steady supply of amino acids throughout the day. Staying away from processed food for people who to consume enough protein through whole foods alone due to appetite, lifestyle, or time limitations, this convenience ensures that protein targets can be met without sacrificing quality. The result is a highly bioavailable, rapidly absorbed, and nutrient-dense protein source that delivers consistent, measurable results in muscle repair, performance recovery, and long-term strength gains.